Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 92. Boy, we keep creeping up on that 100. We're going to have to plan something special for that. It's just me and James tonight. Bill was pulled away by his wife for a getaway, so I hope he's enjoying his time. And how was your week, James?
Oh, it was quite interesting. I had to take a couple days off for family matters, Tuesday and Wednesday. But Monday, Thursday, and Friday were pretty normal at work. I did have a ride along of a new RCA on Thursday. Did a shadow day, and very quiet individual, didn't talk much, which obviously on here I talk a lot, but I didn't talk much with him in the truck, just little bits here and there. But normal, heavy political mail, of course. And then we had the monthly shoppers for Friday. You know, scheduled day off is the next day, and of course I get the box holder.
Mm-hmm.
But everything's good with the family, and weekend's been pretty nice, a little cooler weather-wise, but the winds have been picking up pretty good. Not as much as some have gotten in past few weeks, but hopefully that signals the changeover from summer to fall for us. But we know how that is. We'll get that Indian summer here coming up shortly. But other than that, how was your week, Kristin?
It had its ups and its downs this week. Monday was the normal crap show. Tuesday was the normal next to nothing because Monday was a crap show. I called in for Wednesday. Thursday was Amazon catalogs. Friday was normal day. I worked my K day yesterday and I had a box holder. Well, a WSS. Thank you to the car dealership that's approximately 45 minutes away. So I got home Tuesday from work and my cat had a medical issue. Unfortunately, the closest emergency vet is over 2 hours away, and I was not willing to pay the amount that they said it would cost because she's 15 years old, number one. And so Wednesday morning, that's why I called in Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday morning, we did take her into the local vet and our last. So yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
I know, 15 years old she was. They said it'd be about 5 days for her remains to be returned, cremated, and they called me Friday and said she's back. And I'm like, okay. So Ruby went and picked her up, and is now overlooking Ruby's room right next to Sapphire, my husky that we unfortunately had to put down going on 4 years ago. This cat had a long life. She was a year old when I had my youngest daughter. She got to welcome in my grandson a couple months ago. She outlived 3 dogs. She's had a long, long life full of love. So she definitely is missed. And she's still around. I can see her out of the corner of my eye from the bed. And then, got a new hot water heater installed Friday. So that's nice. No more having to go relight the pilot once, twice, 3 times a day sometimes. Hey, is there hot water? I don't know. Let me go check. Yeah. Finally got a new hot water heater. You know, adulting, those things we get excited about. Hot water heaters. Next month's a new clothes dryer.
Let me know if you need any help. I've got experience with my own.
Yeah, right? And
But
we starting to get the Halloween decorations out, and we always make it bigger and scarier each year. So I was having fun with the machete earlier. We have a couple trees in the far back that have been overtaken by a very, very old Concord grapevine,
Mm,
and which doesn't produce hardly anything at all. In fact, the few grapes that were up there were the very small size of berries. So we,
mm.
I was pulling vines down for more Halloween decorations. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah, the wind was blowing it one way. I was pulling the vines out of the trees the other. It worked to my advantage today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, not too much going on. Everything is otherwise normal for the most part.
Oh, I forgot to mention. Just Friday was the last day for my unicorn postmaster.
Oh
She was
yeah,
retired.
yeah.
Yeah. So now we get to see what we get, whether we get a unicorn or we get an abomination that gets buried in paperwork. One of the two.
Right.
Well, we got at least a month left because she's got leave she's got to burn up before she does that. But so we'll have an OIC for a little bit. We met him. He's a former rural carrier turned postmaster. We'll see how that works.
see if he
But that's
remembers
for a
where he
month.
see if he remembers where he came from.
And hopefully my postmaster told him, hey, make sure you leave them alone because they're fine as long as you leave them alone. But if you start messing with them, they'll bury you in paperwork.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll work out well for us. But so we have a few updates on things in the hurricane. We did have the post about the mailboxes going around and stuff like that, but we posted that on the groups as well as the page so people can actually go and join and donate mailboxes to help victims in the hurricane disaster area. I saw you posted that, Kristen.
Yes, I did. I thought it was an awesome, awesome thing.
It is. And also, I got in contact with a carrier at the um, Boone post office where those mailboxes were going in that post by our union on their Facebook page.
Hmm.
And they said if you could send some supplies to the general delivery at the Boone post office, that'll help out too. Just put on there Boone post office general delivery hurricane assistance so they know that it's to help.
And what kind of supplies are they looking for? Did you get that?
I did not get that yet, but as soon as we get those supplies, we will post it on our page and in the groups. Unfortunately, when I contacted the carrier, it was Saturday night when I finally got a contact in that area and haven't got an update yet. But they're working with the mailboxes people as well. You could also contact them and see if they want to help with anything else as well. Plus, there are a lot of organizations out there that can help with this. The Red Cross, Salvation Army, as well as plenty of others out there. Just be mindful of who you donate to. Make sure you verify the source you're donating to
And don't forget, we
because there are,
also we also have perf as well.
yes, and we also have PERF. If you want to help, you can go to the Postal Relief Fund. And if you need help, you need to apply for the Postal Relief Fund.
And I do know that the two executive committee people that are in that relative area or represent that relative area, they are also collecting supplies, and ADRs and DRs are helping them distribute as well.
Yes, and don't forget, it's not just North Carolina, it's Tennessee, it's South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. All those areas got hard hit by the hurricane. So we're not just donating to just one area. You want to make sure if you want to help, help them all. Help anywhere you can in any of those states because it's gonna be years before it's back to some semblance of actual normal.
It is, and my thoughts and prayers and well wishes go out to the carrier that was paralyzed due to a tree falling on the truck.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
another one.
Yes,
I'm gonna. I have the GoFundMe link for that. I'm sure you might have it too, Kristen.
I've seen it. I haven't shared it at all, but I have seen it. I just
We're,
have been busy.
we could share that as well. And I know that I've talked to several individuals in the union on that, and they've said that they actually are okay with them doing the GoFundMe because you're not supposed to fundraise for net federal employees. But this is an extenuating circumstance, and they have actually verified it's okay. So,
Yes, definitely. And yeah, it will be at least a year before highway is rebuilt. I just read something about the Blue Ridge Parkway is closed down indefinitely at this point. Yeah, it's a mess. It's my heart goes out to everybody that's been affected.
and even though one's over with, we do have another one on the way. Expected arrival time for tropical storm force winds in the Florida Keys and Florida coastline is between Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning right now with the forecast as it is. That is subject to change, but we have another hurricane coming and most likely will travel across the Florida peninsula. So all our carriers that are in that area monitor the storms, evacuate when you're told to evacuate. If you feel it is unsafe, don't do it. Look at what's happened in all these areas from the last hurricane. Don't become a statistic, please.
All right, James, what do you got next?
So now that we've gotten the hurricanes out of the way, the next thing we have is the adjusted routes in the mini mail survey. How routes that were overburdened prior to this mini mail survey got cut, got surveyed again, and their routes are overburdened again. I'll let you touch on this first.
Well, this kind of goes hand in hand with the new routes that were created at the same time that dropped, as well as those that were cut and went back up to an overburden status. The main reason behind that is because there was not 52 weeks worth of data for those adjusted routes. So the route that was cut, the 52 weeks data going back was primarily the data of that route prior to being cut. So, from what I have understood, is they are not going to recut those routes. They're going to give them another full 52 weeks to get where they're supposed to be. And that goes for the same with the ones that dropped drastically that were new routes. Unfortunately, you got to deal with the low evaluations, but make sure you're doing your mapping, make sure you're doing your scans, and it does take a full 52 weeks for any evaluations to be at where they should be. Yep, 2 surveys, which is 52 weeks. So,
And this actually bugs me a little bit because you have all of this data to make all these evaluations. You'd literally know every single piece of mail practically that's going to these mailboxes. You know the volume that's going to these mailboxes. You know the carriers are stopping at these mailboxes. How is it that we can take all that data and not put it into this system and make an actual accurate validation of what the counts are? I mean, you even know the packages that are going to these houses, how many times they've been delivered to the door, how many times they've been delivered to the mailbox, to the person, whatever. You know all of this data, and yet you can't take that and turn around and automatically adjust these routes when you do the cuts for the values that are in those boxes for every box you've added to that route. It's all the same system. Why is it that we have to wait a full year to get this done when you can literally take a box and look at the numbers for that actual box itself? Just like you can look at a route and know exactly its evaluation. If you move that route to a different office, you just change the distance they drive to that route, but the part that they drive on that route is still going to be the same value once they hit that first box until they hit that last box. So I don't understand why this system is so convoluted that we can't take the information we already have and use it to make a proper evaluation without having to wait a year.
I have one answer for that.
Government?
2 words, federal government, but yes. If it makes sense, they do the opposite. Am I not wrong?
Well, You're not wrong at all. And on top of that, they probably paid the lowest bidder to make the program and paid the most amount of money for the program. That's the most bare bones system they could pay for.
Well, and in the past, and I'm going prior to RX, I mean, you knew basically what your box value was for volume for every box. Now, the biggest issue is with this system, they're taking the route volume as a whole, as an average across everybody, not the individual boxes. And that's where the issue lies in obtaining the proper data.
Hmm. When we used to do the mini mail, the mail counts, you would get your evaluation based on the mail that was there that day on your route, and your route was that. And whether your route was cut 2 weeks before, 6 weeks before, whatever, that mail volume that was on your route that day was what got counted. And it was easy peasy quick. And this system was supposed to be easier and quicker to calculate the routes than any other system, and less people actually working on it. But it seems like it's just made it even slower to get an actual accurate evaluation for a route.
And how can they
And
claim routes can get an interim adjustment, but no way for these routes? The interim adjustment
so that,
program still is not across the country.
yes, that too. And the interim adjustment is based solely on your DPM and LTM mapping. It's based on your edit book, the number of active versus inactive addresses on your route. Everything else is on your 4241s from the mini mail survey. Just your edit book, DPM, and LTM are the only things that go into the interim adjustment.
Which again is why it is very important to make sure that your edit books are turned in every month and that you are sitting down to do the mapping, and don't let whoever's doing the mapping with you, particularly management, I'm saying on this one, just do it the quick way. You should
Yes,
be, you're supposed to be allowed to go through the whole thing every month, because things could change. You could have a new family move into a house and you need to replot where you park and deliver a package because of their requests or because of their vehicles, or because you may have to go in and change that stuff. It happens. i've
you
i've had to do it a couple times.
you could have a customer that you used to take the packages to the front door, but then they put a little parcel box right by their garage because they don't use their front door. They use the garage to go in and out of the house. You want to make sure you go through. Plus, on top of that, because I've caught the system actually turning active houses vacant, you definitely want to go through it. And that it may be true the other way. I haven't seen that yet. It may turn inactive houses into active houses too. I don't know. I have not personally seen that, but it's a possibility with the fact that they're turning actives into vacant. So you have to go through the mapping. You have to go through it every month. You have to maintain your route. You are required by the PO 603 to maintain your case, your edit book, your labels, and now your mapping.
Yep. And if management's not allowing you to do that, that's where you're going to be file, and contact your ADRs, your DRs, and get them on it, because there are way too many offices out there still that haven't done mapping since the initial mapping. Or, and it's one excuse after another. It's just management needs to be taught the proper way and held to it.
Yeah, and don't let them tell you, oh, we just need to do this quick 5 minutes and it's done. No, you need to make sure it's correct because it's your money. And like Bill says, whatever's in that computer goes in your wallet. Whatever's not right in that computer gets taken out of your wallet and given back to management.
Yeah, sometimes I know AMS also will, it's supposed to be the 20th that AMS uploads into the DPM, and sometimes they do another one like a week later. I look at it this way: the closer to the end of the month that I can do my mapping, the more accurate it's going to be with any edit book changes. As I have had those instances where I did it at the very beginning of mapping time and then ended up having to go back in again because it flagged it because AMS changed again and something got knocked out or didn't show up the first time around.
Yeah. So, and management is not going to be kind about doing mapping for a lot of carriers because that's a waste of time for them when they could just do it in their office while you're out on the route, check everything off, say they did it with the carrier and move on to other things. Their name gets taken off the district list for not having the mapping done. And they could sit in their quiet office and listen to music while we're out there beating ourselves to death with heavy packages.
So yeah,
We have
for
filed
sure.
we have filed grievances and management keeps claiming we are locked out.
Not locked
Oof.
out.
No, they just don't want to do it. That's what it is. File a grievance for failure to comply on the grievances once you get a settlement that they have to do the mapping. You got to hold their feet to the fire and hold them accountable to what they agree to. And call your district representative. Call your ADR, call your DR, and if they aren't responding to it, contact your regional officer at national headquarters. So, last week I teased on the episode that I had a story to tell. And this one is actually very, very telling to everything that's going on with management and everything going on with people having issues. But I will tell you this, I feel very, very upset about this. And the reason why is at the end of this, everything that's happened so far, they're still fighting, but they resigned their commission as a local steward because of it. You know
Yeah.
who I'm talking about, Kristen.
Do I?
Yeah. But this carrier has been fighting with management for a long time and even filed grievances for harassment, hostile work environment, and stuff like that. And the part that irritates me the most is this person has multiple years in as a local steward and is a fighter and has been actually beaten down by their ADR over it. Now, I'm not saying like just told to shut up and take it, but there was a point where there were 4 grievances filed and the ADR tossed 2 of them out and wanted them to withdraw hostile and unsafe work environment. The ADR didn't think it was hostile or retaliation and basically said she thought the grievances were gripes. Now, as I've talked about previously, they had a training on whether it's a grievance or a gripe. And I praised the stewards that were on there because every single gripe that was brought up was turned into a grievance. There's a reason they're griping. There's a reason they have come to you for help. Even your local stewards coming to you to help. And you're turning around and saying, it's just a gripe. Especially a local steward who knows the difference between a grievance and a gripe.
Yeah. It's
And this person actually said I could bring this on the air for them and let them know that, hey, we're behind them because this is exactly why people have problems with both management and the union, because there are union officials who are allowing management to do this stuff. And this is one of them. I will not name names because then that can create legal issues, but they know who they are. And I'm sure somebody will actually give them this episode to listen to. So I'm going to speak directly to them. To this ADR, you done screwed up. You actually put this union in jeopardy because you are not following the duty of fair representation here. They're bringing grievances to you and you're turning around and saying that they're gripes. That is a failure. And to this person who was a local steward, I commend you for having the guts to speak out about it and allow us to talk about it on here. I commend you for having the wherewithal to still stand up and fight for this craft and be the person that this union can depend on to defend it better than that ADR is doing. I'm behind you on this one. I hope every grievance you get gets settled for more than just language, and I hope that eventually your management will learn to respect the contract and respect the employees and treat them with dignity, fairness, and respect. We need to be together.
You do have a couple
this.
questions in the chat about this too, if you can answer any of them.
I cannot answer what did they do though that was the hostility. I do not know the specifics of that. And you got to remember this was a local steward. So as the legal paperwork of the union says in the policies is that you cannot discuss current or former grievances that you have dealt with as a steward. And so I did not ask those specific details. The NRO should have been called. This person did contact higher up in the chain and was working on that. But the problem is the ADR in this whole situation. So the other parts of it beyond the ADR and the DR situation, I am not sure of. But the big thing is we're calling out the bad situation that happened, which was the removal of grievances that could have been good grievances by just calling them a gripe, which is something all the stewards in the grievance and a gripe training found grievances for every gripe. Now, if it was, he doesn't like the color of my shirt, that's a gripe. That's not grievance worthy unless they were trying to say, you know, the color of the shirt is something that somebody else is wearing and stuff like that. But if it's something that's disparate treatment like that, that'd be different. But if it's, you know, he's telling me that I need to do this, this, and this, and it's completely against the contract and it's creating a hostile work environment because he threatened to write me up or give me an investigative interview if I don't comply, stuff like that, then that is definitely one of those.
Okay, James, I do want to read something, an email that we got a while ago.
Go for it.
And I have an update to it. So, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, you know.
Yep, I know now. Okay. So this was sent to me middle of last month, and I kind of want to go on here again, not mentioning names or locations, but it says I really appreciate all of you and the work you do for the podcast. I didn't find out about it about a year ago, and I've been listening ever since. I also share the information you provide with carriers in my office, ones who don't have smartphones. Wink. Your commitment has inspired me to get more involved. I've always followed union and contract information closely, but never did anything myself. Now I'm making plans to attend local meetings, and I'll soon be a local steward for my office. I think it would be great if you used the podcast and took an episode to explain on how to be a delegate, which we did, and we will touch on that again, and what steps it takes to get there and how the process works. Does it cost money to go? Is it all paid for? Do spouses go? Do they have to pay? I've never met another carrier who has ever been a delegate, so I'm clueless, but I'd love to find out so I can help change leadership for our craft. And another episode, okay, so this is just kind of asking for stuff, even though it may have been something we've done in the earlier episodes, which I know a lot of that stuff we'll go back and touch in on, so I'm going to continue. Another episode on being a local steward or how the steward system works would be great. My election meeting is next Friday, so I'm sure I'll learn a lot on my own, but an episode on the procedure, responsibilities, expectations, how to go about grievances, what if you file and your DR never follows through, how to become an area steward, assistant DR, or are DRs nominated or elected. I know you have touched on these subjects, and if you've already done full episodes on these topics, I apologize. It may have been before I started listening. If so, you can tell me what episode. Thanks for all you do, and I hope you continue doing the podcast knowing how much it means to us. So last week, a week ago actually, I got an update. And that update says, update, I was elected local steward on September 20th. Tonight, I went to my regional union meeting and got elected president. I wasn't even really attending to get elected this time, since it was only my second meeting in 10 years. I was going to get more involved, learn more, make connections, and maybe run next year. Instead, they didn't have any nominees, and after being asked, I said I wasn't opposed to serving, but didn't have much experience. They elected me president anyway. It really is that easy to get involved. Yes, it is, people. It is that easy. And congratulations to this listener on both being elected as your local steward and for stepping up and becoming president of your region. I thought that was really
Yes,
cool.
that is amazing to hear. And speaking of stepping up and getting out there and getting involved, starting the beginning of next year starts all the regional conferences. January, we have STAC coming up. So you have to remember participation in these things is important as well. And it does give you a chance to possibly talk with the national board members in a less formal setting than, say, a national convention would be. So you want to start planning ahead for that. So if you want to go, you have to, reserve your room and things like that. So keep an eye in your state papers as well as on the NRLCA magazine and website for information on that stuff.
Yep.
And then soon after that, we start state conventions again. So
Yep. Room blocks for national convention typically open up the first week of May.
hmm
Within that first week, anyways, typically. So yeah, May 1st, somewhere in there, usually. Like I said, the first week of May in there, I've seen them open up after the first, on the first. So expect the first part of May. Good.
yeah,
Somebody went to their first booster today. Yay. Another person says this Sunday is our booster. 2 weeks from this weekend is our state booster, which will be fun. That's also Miss Ruby's 18th birthday weekend. And
yeah.
she is already gearing up. She told me I have to bring my laptop in because if our posting is up, she will be applying on her 18th birthday.
Nice.
Yeah, you know, listening to me for nearly 10 years and she still wants to apply. So we will see what happens.
You must have a screw loose.
She is my daughter after all.
Nah, I love Ruby. She's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Little man had his doctor's appointment Monday. I forgot about that. He is up to 9 pounds 12 ounces as of a week ago. He is
wow, getting up there.
he is. He'll be at the booster too, so you'll get to see him.
Oh,
I
looking forward to
know.
that.
Yeah. No, I think Ruby would be a good addition to the rural craft.
I think anybody that can do the job and do it well is a good addition to this rural craft right now. We need them so badly.
Here's this poor girl who's already been to every union function this year with the exception of national. So
Yep,
yeah, she's got that down and she wants to, she's already saying, she's going to start, she gets hired in, she's going to be a member and she's going to be going. And her name, if she, like I said, she makes it through the hiring process and sticks with it, her name will be on that ballot for national next year.
that'd be awesome.
Yep. She's,
Yeah. And we're gonna have to start getting ready because the state start around April, I believe, for state conventions.
yeah, there are
I
some
believe those ones
earlier
start.
ones. Yeah,
Some start in April. Yeah. So
that's when we usually
keep an eye.
have our annual meetings for locals. So,
Yeah. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye in your magazines. Keep an eye on the website or in touch with your union reps to find out when that stuff is. Because if you want to participate, the best way you can do is attend meetings. Because more information flows at meetings than they do even on the websites themselves. Um,
so yeah, it's waiting for it. 2 more weeks. We'll see what happens with her meeting us officially.
unless she changes her mind.
Well, she needs a job, so I can't afford her and the baby. Barely afford her.
Especially on table two.
Table two, step one for another month and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are still no contract updates yet.
Mhm.
Um,
No, there is not. Not for either party.
no, not for any party.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, the APWU's given out better updates than any other one of them.
Yep.
But that's all I had today.
I know there was something else I wanted to touch on, and I just drew a blank. See what happens when I don't prepare notes? Right.
Oh,
I really wanted to
yeah,
get that email out. I've been kind of sitting on it, and I apologize.
yeah. there's so I'm going to go back to the hurricane a little bit here. There are some carriers that have been out in the hurricane disaster zones in damage areas delivering and being told by management to do unsafe things like drive across downed power lines, under
Ooh.
trees that have fallen, stuff like that. Don't put yourself in harm's way. If it's unsafe, do not do it, please. Every tree that's down could come down further at any time. You don't know that what's holding it up could fail at any time. And electrical wires, even if the power is out in the entire area, could still hold an electrical charge, could actually gain an electrical charge from the magnetism of the Earth or even a solar flare, especially since we just had an X 9.03 or something that just came off the sun a few days ago. You have to be careful and be mindful out there.
The same with standing water. You don't want to drive through standing water because you don't know how deep that water is, number one. Something could have been washed away underneath and you can't see it. So, rushing standing water, don't drive through it. Uh-oh, James muted. Now it's just me trying to fill in the blanks here.
Sorry about that. Um, yeah, and because you got to think the roadway is concrete or tarmac put on top of crushed gravel and sand, and then on top of dirt. And water will permeate that, could actually lift the road up. I mean, potholes are formed the exact same way. Water gets underneath the road, freezes, lifts up the road, which gets damaged by cars driving over it. Then when it thaws, that pocket where that ice was allows all that roadbed and road to settle down into it, and that's how a pothole is formed. Same thing can happen with floodwater. It could have washed away just enough road surface underneath it that the road looks fine until you put the weight of a vehicle on it.
Yeah, my heart definitely goes out to those affected and those in the path of the newest one coming through.
Yeah.
Mother Nature definitely can be a bear. I'm really
Did it find what
just
you were looking for?
no, I didn't. I will say though, I am very proud of a carrier in another office, one that James and I have talked about between ourselves, who has had a lot of issues and is standing up for themselves honorably. And I just want to give kudos to the text messages with this carrier. Really put a smile on my face, and I'm happy that they're doing what they're.
Yeah, you got to stand up for what's right. If you don't stand up
Absolutely.
for what's right, what if you don't stand up for what's right, what do you stand up for?
All right, James. Anything else that you can think of off the top of the head that we can address tonight?
It's been a slow news week for me overall because I have spent 2 days without being involved on social media because of the family matters.
Yeah, I
So
understand
I'm
completely.
I'm a little bit behind on that stuff. So
Like I said, it's been an up and down week for me. It's definitely, getting used to not having that family member you've had for 15 years. Whether they've got four legs or two, they're still family members.
exactly.
Yeah. Getting my baby snuggles in every day doesn't hurt though. I'm sometimes I'm the only one that can get him to calm down. But we just may cut this one as a short one this week. I'm pretty sure nobody's going to complain about that, right, James?
I don't know. That's up to them in the audience.
Unless you all got questions and you can toss them at us and we'll go ahead and answer them for a little bit. We can do that too. I'm
Yeah,
game.
we're always looking for questions to answer on the podcast. So if you are out there and you want to email us questions or send us the page questions to put on the podcast, you're more than welcome to do that. What's the email, Kristen?
United We Scan Podcast at gmail.com.
Yes, a reminder the dispute date is the 18th. Get your disputes in before the.
Yes, October 18th. And if I accidentally said December, which I think a couple people mentioned while I was reading it, I do apologize. It is October 18th for your disputes. And each dispute is on its own dispute form with its own paperwork trail. So if you've got more than one or two, yeah, I gotta have that paperwork trail.
Oh, I do have a correction to make though from last week's episode.
Yes.
Um, so I talked about a carrier getting shot over political mail in the last episode. and I was told it was Wisconsin. And I did a search for it everywhere I could, and the only one I could find was in Farmington Hills, Michigan, in the news. And I then received a message from another carrier who said they believe it happened in Wittenberg, Wisconsin. So I am unsure whether one happened in Wisconsin aside from the one that happened in Michigan, but what I had heard first was it happened in Wisconsin. So the one in Michigan is confirmed by news sources. I am unconfirmed on any in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
So I
the
just
only
wanted to make that
thing
clear.
I've heard from Wisconsin was from a carrier and basically said it was not in the news because it was an ongoing investigation still.
Okay. So that's what I heard. That's why I wanted to put it out there because some people were like, I didn't hear of one in Wisconsin, so I wanted to put it out there.
Yep, and we appreciate that. All right, guys.
Um, so somebody said that asked if there's an allowance for Helene possible. So from what I have heard, the carriers that are in the offices that are inaccessible and routes that are inaccessible should be getting act of God pay up until the point they have an assignment for them at another location to do their route. Now, granted, that may just be going in and sorting the mail and parcels so that people who live in the affected areas can come and pick up their mail. But at this time, the only verification I have that it is an act of God is through an anonymous source at national office. They did not wish to be named, but I just wanted to put it out there that they should be getting act of God pay. They should not be required to use annual pay or annual leave to cover their expenses while their entire town is lost.
So if that is not happening, I would, if you can't get
I
a
would contact
hold, I would contact national
your
office, honestly.
your national regional officer at national office, um, because this is something that carriers have no control over, especially carriers that actually live in the communities that they work and literally lost everything.
Yes.
It would be bad for a management to turn around and say, well, you may have lost everything, but now you're going to lose all your annual leave too because you have to pay for the fact that you're not working.
Yeah, I would definitely be
Um,
getting a hold of your NRO executive committeeman, especially if you're
and, some,
unable to get in touch with a DR or an ADR in those areas.
and somebody said about the dispute paperwork for those areas.
I don't
That
have an
would,
answer on that,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, because that's something that would have to be discussed between the national office and national management for those affected areas. Because
Yes.
it's more than one district that's affected in those areas, it would actually be a national level thing.
Is it true that
Uh,
no more DPS in New Jersey? Everything is random. Machines are being removed at the plant in order to fit carriers. I the
I've heard
the
rumors of that.
I've heard rumors. I have heard rumors that it could go national and infect the small offices that are just rural offices, ones that don't have city in them, our 1, 2, 3 route offices. I do not know. Like again, that's just a rumor. I haven't seen anything else other than what has been posted on the social webs about it. So can't
I'm,
say one way or another on that.
but if you get what's the number of pieces again? I can't remember the specific
Well,
number. I know it's
under
over.
400.
Well, I know I meant for getting DPS raw like that, and you get your mail raw instead of in DPS form. I think it was 126 pieces of DPS that is raw that you get a piece count for an 8127 time 135. Okay, I've been corrected. It's 135 in the chat. So if I'm wrong, it's okay. Somebody can correct me otherwise. 125. Okay. Wow. Getting all different kinds of numbers here. But you're supposed to get a piece count and 8127 time for casing it by the piece count rate. So
Can I get a 115?
yeah,
I got you 115. How about we go for 100?
Yeah. No, you get one piece of raw. It's 81.27 time for the rest of it. No, but at 125, if it's over 125 pieces, it gets a raw piece count, and you case it all, and you get 81.27 time at the rate for the piece count. So I don't have the exact numbers for the piece count in front of me. I'm not going to take the time to search it up either. You can find it online on the union website and get your information there. But if management's not willing to give you the piece count on it, then we file, and then smile and file some more. And like somebody else said, I doubt they'll get rid of DPS. They will relocate those machines to a new facility only if everybody grieves them not paying the 81.27 piece count time. Bury them in paperwork to make them realize their mistake. Yeah, well, Jen says should probably contact DR about it. My DR said that it doesn't apply anymore because of Rex. I would argue against that because we still have paperwork stating that, and I would use that paperwork to argue that I should get piece count, especially if the amount of raw mail is exorbitantly higher than my mini mail survey count. And if they're not willing to give it, then when you get to the dispute process on your next mini mail survey, you have all those numbers ready for that mini mail survey dispute as to the volume that you're supposed to be getting for the raw count that you're actually handling and casing in your office. And then I would also argue if you're doing all this raw casing, that your start times need to be moved back so that you can have the time to case longer in the office with all the raw mail. So all the mail's coming in raw, well, except for bundled flats, but we consider those raw anyways. But we at least get that credit supposedly in the mini mail survey. Any other big questions or anything before we wrap this up? Love chatting with everybody in the chat.
Yeah, it is interesting direction the post office going. You never know anymore. It's one thing one day, one thing the next, forever changing.
Well, when you have one manager for every 7 carriers, a lot of chiefs and not enough Indians, too many chiefs trying to make decisions.
Oh, I agree 100%.
So,
Somebody's roboting. Who's roboting?
just frequencies, probably because he's in the affected areas and can't get good signal because of the temporary systems they've set up down there.
Yeah, that could be. All right, guys, we're going to wind this down. And, James, your last thoughts for this evening?
Just remember, everybody, stay safe, protect yourself. As Bill says, the most important delivery of the day is you getting home to your loved ones. And that includes anybody in the affected areas from Hurricane Helene and the ones that are about to be in the affected areas of Hurricane Milton, because by the time it makes landfall, it should be a hurricane. So be careful. Don't do anything you deem unsafe. You are the captain of the ship when that vehicle leaves that parking lot. Oh, am I bad?
Good on my end.
Oh, okay. Just stay safe, everybody, and hold management accountable, because the only way to ensure you have rights is to fight for those rights. Stand up for your rights, because when we stand together, we show management we're all in this together.
And everybody's just getting you loud and clear now, James. Yeah, guys, stay safe out there. Again, like I said, my heart goes out to everybody that was affected with Hurricane Helene and those in the path of Milton. Stay safe, people, and we'll update as we can. I'll post stuff in the groups on the Facebook page. I'll find that GoFundMe link again for the carrier that was injured and get that posted. Outside of that, guys, have a safe week, and we should be back next week.
United We Scan behind the scenes. That's why we do this live stages, so you guys can see what is behind the scenes. A little bit
Right.
of a pulling back of the curtain. Not everything that happens behind the curtain, but quite a bit of it, actually.